Hello again, welcome back JDM Escape, and today we're back onto the R33 Skyline. So, today it's time to paint the engine bay, which means at some point in this video, everybody who's been waiting to know what colour it's going to be is going to find out. And as far as I'm aware, there's no hints around. The paint that's on my fingers is not relevant to this, just so you're aware. So the first thing we've got to do is we've got to prepare it before we can prime it, because obviously we've got a set on the thing in the white tub there. It's an epoxy primer to go over like all the bare metal, all the treated metal, and it kind of blends it all back together. And because it's epoxy, it prevents rust a little bit, inhibits it, I think it's called. So, but before we can do any of that, we've got to go through and tape up like all the holes that go into the car. The heat hose is there, the aircon hose is there, and basically what I plan to do at this point is I'm not going to paint anywhere below the chassis rails. So essentially from that point, like from underneath essentially, is the maximum I kind of want to be at today, because I need to get under there with a grinder and do a whole lot of work. So, but I do want to get primer into the bay and then paint obviously. So for now, what we're going to do is prime all that up to there. Like I said, I've got to section all that kind of stuff off, just so we don't end up like shooting it too far and things like that. But ultimately in this video, you will find out what colour it's going to be. So keep watching, obviously. So I've taped up the big steering gator hole and all the little bits and pieces that needed it. I've blown the entire thing off with the airline just to make sure there's no like dust bits going on. And I've also wiped over all the dirty panels as well, which I don't know how it looks on camera, but on the bulkhead and stuff, it looks like way cleaner and like slightly different colour. Same on the tops of the wings and all that kind of stuff. So let's see how this turns out. Let's go mix some primer. So, when the compressor shuts up, that is the first coat of epoxy primer. It's kind of cool to see it all back in one colour again, or like in a decent colour, shall we say. Tried to get as much around as possible, but it lays down kind of different to paint epoxy primer. So, overall, I'm happy that it's like that. But the one thing I did say, I think it was yesterday, I don't know if I put it on camera or not, but I did say I didn't like the idea of the brush-on sealant, so seam sealer. So whether it stays like that, I don't know. I might end up actually sanding some of it back off and just, I don't know, changing it, shall we say, just to make it all smooth. And before anybody worries about the windscreen, doesn't matter that I've oversprayed onto it. The reason I did that is I didn't want it on the seal around the edges, so that is where that is. So I'll put another one on it and just to give it a sort of thing, and then it'll have to bake for the night, and the next clip you'll see will be on to hopefully colour if this goes well. So, but we'll see what happens before we get ahead of ourselves. Okay, so since the last clip, I've kind of been still looking at the engine bay since I primed it, and I've been looking at it thinking, I'm really not happy with the brushable seam sealer. Now, I mentioned this before, and what I decided to do last night was go over the entire tops of strut tops, because that's where you're going to see it ultimately. Whenever you stood at the engine bay, that's what you're going to see. So, went back over the strut tops with a wire wheel, took all the old seam sealer off, well, I say old, 2 days old or whatever it was. Took all that off, and I've reapplied different seam sealer that I can put on with a gun and then just run my finger over it, so we've got like a nice sort of clean line. Because even through the primer, which is obviously like quite a, you know, flat matte finish, there's no depth, there's no reflections to it, but once we put colour on it, it's obviously going to stand out even more. So I really wasn't happy to go like that. So I've gone back a step, do that, and I'm now going to reprimer those strut tops and then colour. There we go. So now I've reprimed it. We've got like a cleaner line around there. It's obviously not perfect, but you know, it's way better than it was. I prefer it massively like that rather than thick brush strokes. So as you look at it, I'm hoping it'll just look a lot cleaner. Honestly, I don't even know if you can tell what I'm talking about while looking at it on camera, but in person, it looks like completely different to obviously what it does probably to you. But next step, colour. And there's a little bit of a backstory behind this colour, but I'll tell you about that in a minute. Colour's on. You ready to see this? Okay. There you go, she's blue. Anybody that wants to know what kind of blue it is, it's not as easy as that. It's a little bit of a custom sort of pale colour. There's a bit of a formula behind it, if I'm honest, and it's not as simple as just painting it. As I found out, this colour's really kind of tricky to get right. So as it's turned out, I'm quite happy with it, but ultimately it could have been better. This is the first time I've ever painted an engine bay, and as I've said a million times before, I'm not a professional painter. I just bought the gear and decided to try it and see what happens. So for that to turn out like this, I'm pretty happy with that. So that is where this video is going to end, and make sure you subscribe, because next time we're going to start putting this car, or the front end at least, back together. And I think next week the windscreen going in as well, so because obviously I've kind of messed that up a little bit more now. But as I said, now that I've done this, I can start putting it back together. So make sure you subscribe, and we'll carry on with the build next week. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you again soon.